Gonna scoop right here. That's how we're gonna rock it today. You're gonna be right up on the microphone, whether you know it or not. You're in the building right now, Corey.
But that's great.
That's really close. I ain't never been that close to you like
Oh
that.
well, man, I might be a little musty. I just came from the gym. Don't mind me. We up close and personal today. We're gonna make it work.
So let me go to the end of this.
Yeah, we're gonna just rock with it today.
All right.
So, Corey, let's start talking about a little bit about you. You know, you don't always hear about the brothers out there that are doctors. What exactly do you specialize in?
So I'm not a medical doctor. I'm actually a PhD doctor.
I'm one of those too. So
we got two doctors in the building.
You know, sometimes people get those confused, especially when you're from a small town. Everybody thinks you can diagnose people and all of those things.
Exactly. I got this bump right here on me. Been here the last 20 years. Can you help me out?
And so you try to explain it to them, but then you realize explaining it to them is not worth it because they still won't get it. But my PhD is in higher education leadership. So my day job is I am a higher education administrator. So I work at a college.
That's my PhD too.
Ah,
see, look at that.
See, we have
like mine. We got two.
Yeah, my master's is in education and counseling psychology, with more of an emphasis on college students, but at the same time, half of the major was strictly counseling. So most of the classes we took were all counseling based in counseling courses with counseling majors. So, and so yeah, that's my educational background.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you were going to school, was that the goal? Were you setting out to be a doctor, or was it kind of like you were just looking and like, I can do this. I can actually, get my degree.
First, just to let you know, I'm from South Georgia, in a small town. I didn't even know what a doctor or PhD, I didn't know any of those terms. So to say that I was actually trying to be that from the start, no, that wasn't the case. When I went to undergrad, I went there without any knowledge of college. I'm a first generation college student. And so I didn't understand anything about college. And so when my senior year, I actually met the first black doctor black man that was a PhD. He was our vice president for student affairs. And he was the reason I ended up going to get my master's degree, because he said, you can go and get a master's degree, right? And so no one had ever had that conversation with me. And when he had that conversation with me, I started applying to master's programs during my senior year, and I ended up getting admitted into the University of Louisville. And so I went there and got my master's degree. And while I was there, my mind started, I was like, I can do more. I can do more. And so I ended up
challenging yourself.
Absolutely. And so I ended up getting a job at Indiana State University. But at the same time, they had a PhD program there that I was interested in. And ironically, two black women were professors in that program. And I was 24 at the time. And they were like, you should apply. And so I applied, got into the program, started it at 25, finished in 3.5 years.
Dang, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate
so proud of you. That's fantastic.
Come on. Just with a little bit of opportunity and a little bit more education, and just knowing that doors can open, that's beautiful, man.
I'm a shameless plug too, because my wife is also a PhD. She finished around the same time I finished. Well, she finished a year before me, so she's PhD too.
Oh,
wow!
Well,
come on,
doctor.
Is
she in education leadership as well?
So she was because she got hers in the exact same major, and she was working in higher ed. But when you have two people working in higher ed, those schedules can get crazy. And so her master's is in business, and so she went back to the business world.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
So we're gonna get to it. We're gonna go back in time. We're gonna take you back in the day.
Take me back.
I was reading a little bit about your bio and everything, and getting a little bit of background on why you've created these books that you created, which are amazing. So you found yourself at one point in life. Was it back in high school or junior high? When was that point you kind of referred to?
Talking about
you were kind of falling into the friend zone with the ladies
Oh,
out there.
that was to be honest, that's middle school, that's high school, that's all of that.
That's middle, okay.
Absolutely.
So middle school, high
But
school.
something happened in college, and you just got the Mac on.
Yeah, well, Mac on.
Let's start back.
I don't want to admit it.
We jumping
Oh,
ahead.
okay. Let's talk.
Let's start on the junior high school
Yeah.
days when you kind of found yourself, looking at the ladies and it's like, okay, I'm going to be approaching them. I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to go this route. And somehow you kept on falling into that friend zone with the ladies.
And so it was more so I was the nice guy. I was
Nice
always
guy. Yeah. That's how you referred to it in the bio, the nice guy.
right. And so all of the guys in school played football. I didn't play football. And the crazy thing is I actually played golf. And
okay.
right. I see. Yep. And so the story behind golf is that when I was in 7th grade, or 6th grade, my mother always thought about what would be helpful in the long term. And she said, golf is a game that they make business deals. And so she put me into a clinic and I just started playing golf.
I could imagine how tough that could have been out in Georgia as well. You know what I'm saying? Not too many brothers go. Right. I would assume. We in California.
No, there were two in my hometown who played golf, me and another guy. And so I think another important piece about my high school and my middle school time is that my high school was known for winning state championships in football. Okay. And so football is like heaven. It's like everything in my hometown. And so if you didn't play football, you just didn't get as much.
You wasn't in the in crowd.
So it's either football or you had to be kind of the dope boy thug type. It's one or the other. And that's who got most.
There was no other.
No, there's not room for anybody else. Especially one of a few blacks who's in the gifted classes or the advanced classes playing golf. You're not going to get a lot of attention. And then chubby at the same time. And so I did not get a lot of attention. I always fell into that friend zone. Oh, he's nice. Corey, you're nice. You're going to make somebody a great husband one day. I was that guy. As opposed to, like, even I think about, they used to have what they call exemption day. And that's where you didn't have to take tests. And during those days, all of my friends who played football, they had these girls that they meeting up with doing things that high schoolers do sometimes. Not me.
Exactly.
Matter of fact, there were a few occasions where I was the driver. I'm taking him to see her. You know,
the Uber driver before Uber was out.
Right. I was Uber driving before. And so that was my career. You know, I mean, my high school career. And I didn't get a lot of play. I was respected, but I just didn't get a lot of attention from the ladies.
Yeah. So at a certain point, it sounds like you just really got fed up with that persona. You know, when you're like, why am I the future husband, but I can't be the now boyfriend? You know.
Well, you know, as a young man, you always thinking like, man, what's wrong? You know, and so that created some insecurities. In the sense of I attributed a lot of that to my weight. And so, I mean, these are things that during those times I would have never admitted, but I thought it was, you know, my weight. I didn't know if I needed to be a bad boy because I didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I didn't do any of those things. And so I was just a nice guy. And sometimes I was thinking like, should I do those things and would I get more attention?
Yeah.
But yeah.
And you're not, it's so funny because there's so many people out there that have this exact same story. You know what I'm saying? We all go through that phase in life, you know, whether it's middle school or high school, where we're trying to identify with our true self, you know, and trying to seek acceptance from our peers, you know? And when we're seeing that one demographic is getting all the attention and we can clearly mimic that, then we're like, well, I can kind of be like that if that's what they like. If that's what the girls like, then I guess I have to go down this route. But it's not truly who we are at the end of the day.
Right.
I think it's funny because you both are talking from a male perspective.
Yeah, well,
but I like nice guys. However, nice guys didn't appear as much fun as the other guys. That's all I'm saying.
And that's the issue. Why couldn't a nice guy be fun as well? You know what I'm saying?
You know why? because nice is because nice. I don't know.
You know, you
Because
just
you want a challenge.
Okay,
let us know.
it's not against nice, but I'll go from fun. Fun is like they just going without thinking or caring, and being nice is thoughtful. And being thoughtful takes time. It's not as fun. It's a little bit more cautious.
So you're saying they seem more free spirited, kind of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it's more so you want a challenge. I think it's more so you want a challenge. And nice
You
guys,
want to tame the
everything is
beast.
spelled out for you. You don't get
Yeah,
confused
that's true.
much. And so a lot of guys who are not playing a nice guy role, they are doing a lot of things to keep you guessing and to keep you wanting more and to desire more. You don't have to ask for a nice guy to appreciate you. But a bad boy, you're going to try to work so hard to get him to appreciate you. So you see it so much more as a challenge, which we say it is a challenge, but you actually you say it's exciting, but it's really more so the challenge that you are pursuing at that time is to try to accomplish this individual.
Okay.
Yeah, let's break down the psychology on it today.
It's the challenge.
It's definitely the challenge.
I guess it could be, but I think the same thing. I think the same thing goes for women too. For men too. They like the challenge.
Well,
So
you don't think a man? You don't
the
think a
girl
man?
who spurns them, who's got all these other multiple things that she's doing, people that she's seeing, that you guys want to go after her, the one who treats you terribly. That's who you want. You don't want the nice girl either. I'm a nice girl, and that becomes challenging.
Now, I give you another perspective also is that I think sometimes the bad boy is seen as like the alpha male. And so it's almost like he's a true man.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Yeah.
nice guy, he's kind of soft. And so I know a lot of women like men is what, we call them.
Well,
A man.
that's what society projects on our
Absolutely.
community. You know what I'm saying? You have to be, macho and all, whatever, however you want to define
Yep.
it. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's a lot of media and marketing on what a true man is,
Right.
and anything else is like, why even bother?
Right.
So yeah, it's an illusion that they give you ladies. You know what I'm saying?
It's an illusion that women be projecting too, but we play these games. I don't understand why we play these. They have to have this dance that you go back and forth. That kind of irritates me too. But you were on some line of questioning, and I'm just waiting for my opportunity to really start grilling this brother.
Let's get it.
Oh, man, you want to grill me? Why can't this just be a nice discussion?
A wholesome conversation. Huh?
Right, a wholesome conversation.
For one, I want to know what. I don't want to say this. I don't take this mean, but what qualifies you as a relationship coach? Coach.
Great. And so first, you notice that I use the word coach, right, as opposed to expert. And that is very specific because a coach, in my opinion, is a person who has a perspective. And it's not so much saying that I know everything about being in a relationship. And so the reason I define myself as a relationship coach is one, through my experiences. I've been on the side of being that guy who has been pretty bad. And I've developed myself into a man who is very respectable, who is a married man, who's been through so much to get to where I am today. Secondly, I am a person who values research. And so I'm a person who I do a lot of research on my own. I do a lot of conference traveling, having discussions about relationships and dating. And so all of that together, in terms of also me just years, because I didn't come into this wanting to be a coach. So let me make that known too. This wasn't my ambition, is to be a relationship coach. It started because a group of people, well, an organization, I don't know if I can say Zeta Phi Beta. I just said they invited me to an event. They invited me to an event and asked me to speak about what men think about women. This was in 2008, I think. And I went and I did the event. I didn't think too much of it. And then their regional director called me and she said she heard about my presentation and she said, would I come to the regional conference to do it? And I said, okay. And I did it. And then another Zeta who was in Virginia at the time, I was in Indiana, she flew me out to Virginia because she worked at a college and asked me to do a presentation. And so I did the presentation, got back to campus. Then all of these young ladies started coming to my office. And they started asking me questions because they found out I was the quote unquote relationship guy when I really wasn't at that time. And while doing coaching these young ladies when they came to my office, they started saying, you should write a book. And I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. But I started realizing that when I was talking to these young ladies, there were a lot of patterns. And these were patterns of things that I did when I was in college. And it was like I'm like, man, because I was telling them exactly what these guys were doing because I did those things. And so they said, you should write a book. And I didn't think about it at that time, but the defining moment for me was when I was on a panel. I was on a panel. I was the only staff member, and there were a group of young men who were on that panel. And we were talking about dating and relationships. It was a young ladies organization who had young men on the panel. And one young lady asked, what do guys think about women that they sleep with on the first night? And all the guys up there were saying, oh, that's not a problem. I would still date them, date them, date them. And so in my mind, I'm like, I would have never dated somebody like not getting
yeah, they're not telling the truth.
And I'm sitting there thinking that, and the guy sitting next to me, and he was the most popular guy in the school at the time also, he hit me and he said, hey man, I'm gonna let you answer that because if I answer that truthfully, that's gonna mess me up. And that was the moment where I realized that the guys couldn't tell the truth, because if they told the truth, then it would mess up everything they wanted to do. And so I raised my hand and I answered the question. And I said, when I was in school, I would have never, ever even considered a serious relationship with somebody who I slept with. And so that was the moment where I was like, man, nobody's talking to these young ladies about the truth. And so that's when I started taking it a bit more seriously. And I decided, I said, okay, I'm gonna write this book. And that was the first book I wrote, and I think it was like 2009. This was before Steve Harvey too. And it was it was Through the Eyes of a Man, the truth about college dating revealed to women. And I started doing YouTube videos slowly because it was more about my perspective at that time. And so I was giving my perspective. And so my YouTube channel started growing. And so I started getting a lot of older women, and they started asking me questions, and they said, when are you gonna write a book for us? And so I ended up writing my second book like in 2013, The Ultimate Guide to Evaluating Mr. Right and Eliminating Mr. Wrong. And so it started out
with that title.
Yeah. And so it started out with me kind of just sharing my perspective of being that guy and giving women the signs to look for in a guy who's really not serious, a guy who has a narcissistic mentality, and a guy who honestly just wants everything without the relationship. And so that's where I started. But then as I got more serious, I started doing more research. And as I said earlier, I do have a background with counseling classes and all. And so we learn all the counseling techniques. And so I don't counsel, but I do coach. But I have a flair of counseling in there because of that background in the counseling area.
So what was you saying you were noticing? I heard you say you were noticing a lot of tendencies that the women were bringing to you. What were like maybe the top three that you were constantly like, wow, man, everybody's just coming to me with
It's not wow at all. It was like, this is coming. The number one is more than likely a guy who is giving her a little bit of attention and a little bit of time, but he'll never ever give her a commitment. And so she's trying to figure out whether she needed to stay
out on the weekends.
What she need to do to try to get more time.
Right.
Cut them loose.
Yeah, right.
Cut them loose.
Absolutely. I always cheating, quote unquote, and I use cheating in quotes. And the reason I put cheating in quotes is because typically when they come, they're still not really in a relationship, so they don't know if it's cheating or not. But to them, it feels like cheating
because they don't have the title yet.
You don't have the title, but in your mind, you have you technically are something, and so they didn't know. They didn't know how to deal with it because technically it's not cheating, but it felt like cheating. And also, let's see. Another one is guys who want to be with them, but they had done something else with another friend, so he really wants them, but he doesn't want to commit to them because she did something with his friend. This college stuff.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So she was
Um,
like talking to her friend at one point and then had a crush on him. She
yep.
didn't know how to make that transition because she's already talked to
Well,
the friend or whatever the case
it's
may
not
be.
that she didn't want to make the transition. It's that he's telling her that he want more, but he can't do it because she slept with his friend.
Oh, okay.
Ooh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So,
And the third one?
that was the third one.
Oh, that wasn't the third one. What was? Oh,
So
cheating.
yes,
Okay, cheating.
and
So it's
there's probably a lot more.
a guy who gives you a little bit of attention and a woman wants more time, and then cheating, right? And then and then
Well, cheating
women
in
not wanting a cheating
cheating in
in
quotation.
quotes. And
Yes,
then the other one is previous relationship with friends, and she's now trying to get with this person. He's being reticent about it.
but he's
Okay,
giving her
so hold that
attention.
thought.
Oh,
Go, hold that thought, because we're gonna
okay.
go on a quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. That was a quick break, wasn't it? Welcome back to Health Matters. We're talking with relationship coach Corey. Corey, what's your last name again?
Guyton.
Guyton. Corey Guyton. I'm with my co-host Cat Fitness.
what's up, everybody?
So, okay. So again, we were talking about a guy wanting the top three relationship issues women have with men are guys giving a little bit of attention and women wanting more, cheating in quotation marks, or a young lady having a previous relationship with an associate, a friend or associate, and now they're trying to have a relationship with this person, and they are resident because they have history with somebody that they knew.
Right, and
Okay, so
those are college.
Go ahead.
Those
Yeah, I
are
know, yeah.
college themes. Yeah.
So I guess we're gonna come around to my age, because I'm up there.
So let's tackle this, because there's a lot of young adults out here experiencing this,
Right.
and especially in Berkeley, we got Cal right up the street.
Right.
So what were some of the things that what was some of your advice that you were giving these young ladies on these three topics when they would come up?
Well, because you have to go back to why some of the young ladies are stuck in those types of situations. That's the first thing I have to look at.
Psychology, yeah, the
First.
psychology of it.
And it's because when you look at a college campus, a lot of college campuses, the women automatically outnumber the men. And then you take that group of men, let's say that are on that campus, you have the men who are in relationships, you have the men who are just outright no good men, and so you have a few men who are left over who are quote unquote really dateable. And so
right.
And so when you have that small group, you have women, it's like a dog eat dog world trying to land one of those guys. And so when you feel you have one, they feel they have to do everything in their power to keep him and keep him from the other women who are on campus. And so it becomes a competition. And so when they're coming to me, it's really how do I win him as opposed to how do I build a healthy relationship with him? And so what I do is I have to back them up to figure out, because one thing I try to do is take the emphasis off of the guy and put it back on the woman. And I say, what do you desire? What type of relationship do you desire? And when they paint that picture of that relationship, my question is this person giving you any reason to believe that they can help you accomplish that? And 9 times out of 10, it's a no, because most guys are not opening up intentionally. And if we could talk about that a little bit later if y'all want to talk about that. But most guys are not opening up. Most guys are not consistent. Most guys are playing these games and not putting a woman in a place where she can be comfortable, which on the other end of things, that's his way of keeping her attached to him, which she doesn't see the game. And so what I do is I break the game down, because I used to play those games. And a part of that game is if I keep you guessing, keep you fighting, then I know I'm going to keep you attached to me. And so once I break the game down to them, then we go back to what do you deserve? So not just necessarily what do you desire, what do you deserve? And when we start talking about what do you deserve, then I ask, are you receiving that? And if you're not receiving that, then you have to make the decision to get on a path to getting closer to what you deserve. And that path cannot include an individual who's not being honest with you, not being consistent with you, not being open with you. And so it's a process, and that's like the
I
quick
agree.
process. But we go through an entire process because there's always a root to why people are stuck in situations. Because if we think about the truth, if it was somebody else, they could easily say you need to walk away from that. So clearly they know that that's not a good situation for them. And so it's a matter of getting them to not only see it, but to do something about it. And that's the issue. And try to get them away from trying to get the other person to change, and more towards getting them to make a decision that's going to benefit them the best.
Exactly.
I like that. I agree. I like that. So far we're on the same page.
So you ready to grill?
I like what you're saying. And because that's what I kind of advise my young girlfriends. I'm like, I tell my daughter, let me tell you.
So how receptive were the women when you were giving all the advice? Were they soaking it up, or were they just taking it and
they were soaking it up?
Oh, it's not.
Some people you can share the game, but they don't want to.
They are 100% soaking it up. I've never had anybody who didn't soak up what I said or the advice I've given. It's not a matter of soaking it up. It's a matter of applying it. That's the issue.
Right. So were they applying it then? This might be the better question.
Yeah.
So you have 50-50.
Yeah.
I would say that's 50-50. Because you got to think they're still college students, and you have to think about the age group, think about the fact that they still want to be wanted. They still want attention. And so, because another thing, let's go into some of the games and I can explain how this thing works. The game is this: if she's already slept with him, 9 times out of 10, she's going to continue with him because she doesn't want another notch on her headboard. And so I'd rather just deal with you and your mess. I know what to expect, as opposed to going out and trying something new. And so I'd rather fight for you than to break free and to start over. And a lot of guys knew that.
Interesting. I guess so. You know, I would think back to dating when I was in college a few years ago. Yeah. Anyway, and I remember this one guy who was telling me, because I always played, I thought I was cute. So I always played hard to get and all of that. And this one guy said, you know, when I'm at home, I have apples and oranges. But when I'm at college, I have apples, oranges, bananas, mangoes, peaches.
He had the buffet.
He had everything. Man. And so he's trying to, you know, figure out and taste all this fruit, as opposed to the boring ass apple and oranges that he's used to. I mean, it could be good, but all this other fruit too. And so it was difficult for him to even try to settle down or anything, because there was so many options available for him.
So let me give you this perspective, because, and when I'm speaking from the perspective of the quote unquote good guy, because I was a good guy. Don't get me wrong. I was always focused in school. I never ever disrespected a woman in the sense of calling her out her name, any of those type things. And so I would be considered quote unquote a good catch when I was in school. And so here's the thing, similar to what you were talking about, is that I never ever had any plans of settling down while I was in school. Because one thing I knew is that I was going to graduate. I knew that for a fact. And I knew that at some point I was going to end up being successful, get a job, and while I'm in school, I have no clue what these young ladies are going to be. And I know when I get a degree, I'm a black man with a degree. And so that's like a woman's, you know, a black woman.
I know, right there.
Right? And so now think about this, not just a degree. Now, if I go to graduate school now, then that puts me in another tier of black men. And so now I can get a woman with a master's degree. Even with a master's degree, I could probably get a woman with a PhD. And so why would I lock myself down with a woman in undergrad when I have no clue what she's going to be? And I can wait till I'm 24, 25 years old, have my degrees, have a job, and get a woman with that.
That's pretty interesting. I never even thought of it like that. You know, well, I know, because that, but that's...
They put you in the pecking order, you know?
Yeah, that is putting people in a pecking order, but it's also it's a one key issue that you're pointing out there, and you're not really saying it flat out, but you knew your self-worth, and that's important.
Yeah,
you knew your worth, and
I
so
did.
that allowed you to be particular and picky.
But I see, but particular and picky, but I used it to my advantage to also get what I wanted. But it wasn't healthy to the other people who were involved. See,
Right.
that's the issue.
Because were they being strung along? Were you stringing them along, and is that why it wasn't healthy?
Absolutely. And let me explain. So that's why I'm saying, there's levels to this, and that's why I did what I did. And there's levels to this because when you say string along, yes, I did. But the one thing I always did, I never lied. That's one thing I never lied. But I used the fact that I knew I was a good guy, and I knew that they would fight for me, to be around, be with me, to whatever. I used that to my advantage. And so I would always set the situation up to get what I want without any commitment. I.e., I would say, I'm not really looking for a relationship up front. So I didn't lie. But at the same time, you knowing that, now at that point, if you choose to pursue a relationship with me or something else, that's at your own risk, because I told you up front. So you can't hold me accountable for that.
And he brings up a good point earlier, because a lot of women feel like they can change the man.
They can change.
He's like, oh, well, he says this now. He says this now. I don't want to be in a relationship. But once he's with me, then that all might change.
And also,
so who's at fault at that point?
The women are, and also women in their mind, they also think that, well, if he gets some of this, he don't want to let it go. And I know that that's not the truth.
Yeah, but
right there.
When you ask who's at fault, I mean, I will say that yes, to a certain degree, they are at fault. But at the same time, I knew what I was doing, and at the time, I didn't necessarily recognize the psychology of it, but I knew their responses based off of what I bring to the table. And so I used it to my advantage. So I took fault too. At this point in my life, when I'm older, I had time to really process, my way of thinking, because it was a narcissistic mentality at the same time. And so it's a dangerous mentality. That's why I wrote the books back when I wrote them. Because it's dangerous, the games that guys play.
Well, a lot of times the guys even sell false love to these women.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? At least you were coming from an honest standpoint. A lot of me like, no, it's only you. I love you and this and that. And then this woman's in this false reality of a relationship. And then next thing you know, she's blindsided, finding out he's with another woman or whatever the case may be. And then that's even more devastating. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, it's those are the ones that I'd be like, wow.
Let me give you
sell somebody a dream like that.
Well, let me give you some thoughts about that also, because the game, like I said, there are layers to this game. And so even for a guy such as myself who was honest up front, there are still little things you can do to kind of convey that message without saying it though. And so, for like telling a young lady that, you're special, because I can say you're special.
Yeah.
Or even giving the perception that we are exclusive. Without saying exclusive though, you're the only one I'm dealing with. You're the only one I'm dealing with right now. Right. So the right now is what's important.
I'm interrupting only because I'm trying to bring my perspective in this.
Okay.
And I got caught up like that one time, understanding that, guys will say certain things so they could get to the good. They almost will say anything. You are special. No woman made me feel the way you fit, the way you make me feel just talking to you. And I almost am feeling that a girl needs to have that experience, somebody who kind of like her, hurts her feelings, sets her up, so she'll have some perspective and some understanding how she should conduct herself and what she really wants to, what she should expect. Because I'm telling you, once that only happened to me one time, and it wasn't going to happen to me again. Nobody's going to Throw me no line like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, sitting back. Show me.
It's like when you test the oven when you're a little kid and you figure out it's hot.
Right.
You're not gonna test it again. You know.
But
to be caught up in that over and over again,
Yeah, and for some people though, it goes to deeper issues though than than them being able to just say I don't want to do that, because there are some self-esteem issues that people carry that is the underlying root for why they continuously get into those situations. You have people who do not like being single. They don't like being alone. People who want to feel like they're special to somebody, and so it's a continuous cycle because they're seeking to fill a void. And yeah, it's difficult out here for a lot of people.
Yeah, and a lot of these women don't have fathers in their. Not saying all, but a lot of these women don't have fathers in the household, so they don't see how a man should be treating a woman. So all they're getting, it could be through, well, depending on when they're growing up, it could be through TV or it could be through other forms of this perception of what a relationship looks like, when all reality, like, for instance, I want to say this one because you out that way, Housewives of Atlanta, right? The show they got out there. It's like those women go out there and you're like, are these real people? Like, who really acts like this? You know what I'm saying? But the women, they tune in every week. They see the drama and they see this, and these are wives, right? So some women is like, oh, that's how a relationship's supposed to be. The dude can dog me, I'm still his wife, and this and that. And that's their perception because they might have never had a dad that said, hey, no, this is how a man treats you. This is what your expectations should be, and the whole nine. Giving them the game that you were giving them, but at a younger age, and growing up with that persona in the household. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
and
like you said, it's layers.
Yeah, we don't have images at all, and anything that's positive is not going to get ratings, right? And so there has to be drama associated. And so if drama has to be associated with quote unquote ratings and people watching, then it doesn't do them any good to have the Cosby Show on television as much as they used, or shows like that, because it's too
well, I like the relationship in Blackness, and that is, I mean, it's not a typical Black family, but it does touch on issues of race. But I like their partnership. They're in it together.
So
even showing the other side where the dad who's just trifling as heck. So but we don't have many examples of that. And you're right about that. But you don't even have good examples of women either. Do you see what's on TV? Us being ignorant, trifling, narcissistic,
but they're
materialistic. Those are all the things that guys are being fed about women as well. So we're not getting a fair deal on either side of the fence. It's all bad.
I throw another aspect also. I think Instagram is killing everything also in terms of relationships and dating, and because people are attributing likes to value. And so you have so a lot of these young ladies in real life are trying to mimic what they see with the, changing their bodies to try to fit this mold of what is valuable in society, i.e. getting butt injections, all of that type of stuff because of Instagram likes.
Yeah.
And it becomes, and so then
keep going on about that.
Okay, and so then they're noticing that these Instagram models are beginning to pull these athletes, these rappers, they're getting a lot of attention, which leading to them quote unquote getting into these relationships with people of power, and they feel like that's their key to getting that type of relationship. And so they're doing it. Even people who are not Instagram models are doing it in everyday life, and it's killing what I would say the self-esteem or the self-image, because it's saying that I don't appreciate myself, so I'm going to create the image that I think that somebody else wants. And so now you're living a lie, and I won't even say a lie. You're just not authentic in that relationship anymore, because you sold them the fantasy of what you felt like they wanted, but it's not who you are.
Not your true self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Sadly, even without all the butt injections and whatever, people do that anyway. One thing that I was realizing that I was doing, I was very, here I am making a confession, but I was very guilty of this. And that is presenting to some man the woman, the ideal woman that he thinks he wants. So I'll listen to all his cues, and I become that woman. I would
And
morph into that woman. That wasn't authentic because that wasn't me, but I was surely presenting myself that way.
let me give
So
you
what?
this.
Okay. So what made you? What made you want to? You know what I'm saying?
Because
Create this alter
because
reality
he
within
had things
yourself.
that I thought that I wanted.
Okay.
He was well established. He was considered maybe a catch. Yeah. And so I was presenting myself as the woman that I thought he wanted, and that he was conveying to me that he wanted.
But that disguise
that wasn't
real.
real.
So
exactly. It wasn't real. I do it, but then at the same time, I never was in the back of I was never like serious. But you know, I was one of those. I was a bad girl.
So let me give you a perspective on that, right? So guys do the exact same thing, but the outcome is completely different for guys and girls, right? So when you changed who you was to become who you thought he wanted, it's probably an image you tried to uphold to please him. On the flip side, when he changes his image, it's because he's trying to land you, and once he hooks you, then he can go back to being who he was, and now you have to deal with it. And so the motivation behind changing yourself is completely different. And speaking of this topic, it's crazy because about a week or so ago, I did an Instagram live, and that's what I talked about. My way of coaching, I would never ever tell a woman who she needs to become in order to land a man. I always tell her to be the authentic her. And if you
herself,
appreciate the authentic you, then he's not the right person for you. Because far too often, I meet all of these women who don't even know who they are, their identity, because they've changed so much to try to appease a guy. And so now that's why when the guy leaves, she's lost because she has no sense of self, because she became somebody totally different. And so the process of even rebuilding herself is even getting to know who she is as a person, because she altered herself so much mentally and emotionally.
Yeah. And this is what I tell a lot of people, you have to love yourself to the fullest before you try to seek self from another. You know what I'm saying? Because so many times we're not getting it from ourselves, and then we're like, oh, I need this. And like you said, once that person leaves, it's like, who am I? I've never established my own identity.
And so the way I kind of say that statement, I say you have to come into a relationship whole, because you know some people say I need somebody to complete me, and if you're seeking a person to complete you, if that person never leaves, then that means you're incomplete whenever they leave. And so if you come in whole, if you leave, you're not taking a part of me with you. Because I came in mentally together, I came in emotionally together, spiritually together. And so, and also, when you have a clear understanding of who you are, your worth, your value, then you won't settle as much, because another person will become complimentary and not somebody who can complete you. And so you're just complimenting me, and if it doesn't work out, I don't need you. And so I can uphold my standards, as opposed to I'm lonely and I need this person. And so if you're lonely, that means that might not be the right time for you to pursue a relationship. And when I say lonely, I'm talking about deep rooted loneliness, not that I just wish I had somebody, but a person who really feels like they need somebody in order to be happy with life.
Exactly. And you hear about people like say they're in relationships for like 5-10 years, and then they break up. Instead of finding a good space to be in, they try to get right back into a relationship.
Without, and that's filling a void. That's filling a void, because a relationship is a comfort zone. You can get into a comfort zone where, and almost like an addiction, and if it's not there, then you are going in withdrawals. And so I need to at least have somebody to fill that void. I don't know what it feels like to be single. I'm afraid of being single, and so I need to fill that void. And so then you become dependent. And that's an issue a lot of people have, is they become dependent on the title, not the relationship, but the title. because there is not really a relationship in many of those situations. There's no communication, no trust, no security, no anything. So there's not a relationship, but people are addicted to the title or the belief that they're in a relationship.
I think you're right about that. So, and
Ooh.
rebounding is terrible, I think.
Oh, man.
I think
so
you need to detox.
It.
You need to detox and really need to like
you
kind of do some self-evaluation and self-reflection. You need to kind of look at yourself in the mirror for a minute. I know I did. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
And I come to the conclusion, ooh, I didn't like myself with him. So now what is it that I need to work on?
And what I'll say is so detoxing, absolutely. Oh, I lost my train of thought. Oh, I had a good point for you all.
Come back.
I had a great point for you all.
You had a gym. You was gonna drop us with another gym.
It's gonna come back.
Yeah, it was there.
So while you're thinking about your gym, hold on. Let's take a break.
Okay.
You're listening to Health Matters on KPFB 89.3 FM in Berkeley with Felicia and Cat Fitness.
You know, you talk, if I introduced you as...
Oh, Dr. Felicia Bridges. I apologize, Doctor. You see how she was going to get me? She said,
yeah.
You see how you introduced me?
If I did that to him, we wouldn't like it.
That's the power of editing. We can edit that.
Right.
You know, they get it live and direct, but, you know, the listeners on Sundays.
Also, got to do a quick one. Stay tuned to KPFB 89.3 FM in Berkeley for part 2 of Health Matters with our guest today, Dr. Corey Guyton, and host Felicia Bridges and Cat Fitness.
In the building. Did it come back to you?
It did come back to me.
Let's get it.
One of the things I try whenever a person is working on trying to detox, I always try to get them to change the perspective, because the perspective is looking at it from a different angle of saying, not what you lost is what you gained and who you're gaining. And also, who lost who is the question. Because a lot of times we say, I lost this person, but no, they lost you. Especially when you know who you are and your value, you know what energy you put into them, you know how great of a significant other you can be for that other person. They lost you. You're the one of value. And so gaining your value back is saying that I'm the person who carries this type of value and they lost me. And that's when healing really begins, whenever the focus moves further away from that other person and back towards you. And a reason a lot of people hurt so long is because they're focusing on that other person, but it's trying to redirect that energy back to themselves. And the less relevant.
I was gonna say,
go ahead.
I'm sorry for cutting you off. I was gonna say, in general, a lot of people don't like to dive in deep within themselves.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
No,
that's hard work though. That's also scary.
It's scary because you're afraid of what you're gonna find, and
exactly.
It's like drug addicts. They don't want to address the root of why they're on drugs because they have to deal with the true pain. Yeah. And same thing with relationships and dating. A lot of people are afraid to dig deep, but that's the reason I always push people not just to come to a coach, go to a counselor, so they can dig deep, because there may be underlying issues from parents or maybe a past relationship. There are always a root, and so if you can address that root, it's almost like taking medicine to address the symptoms, but never ever going to get diagnosed the true element that's creating whatever those symptoms are. So if you have headaches, you're taking aspirin every day as opposed to going to find out what's generating those headaches. And because I'm afraid to go figure out what's generating those headaches, because I may find out it's cancer. And so I rather just deal with the symptoms and not the root of what's causing that. And so a lot of people are afraid of that.
Wow, Dr. Guyton, that is some powerful insight. I want to ask you about being a coach, and you offer coaching services through your website. Dr. Guyton, if I were to call you and say, hey, I'm trying to get myself back in there, trying to get it back in there, how do I start? How do I start?
And so Usually it always start with some type of email, some written, something to me, whether it's through my website on Instagram. And I always set up some type of discussion because the thing is, um, it's not always about can I help you? It's about am I a good fit for you? And so the first discussion, I want to make sure like we have to vet each other. And so I want to make sure you're a good client because sometimes people are coming to me, they're not really coming to heal. They're coming to just patch the wound, but not to heal.
Yeah.
Just stop the bleeding.
Put a band-aid on a broken leg.
Right. And so for me, sometimes I say no because if you're not, because it's going to be a waste of time. And I'll get frustrated if if the person is really not serious about trying to heal. And so I'm honest with people. Let me say it that way. I'm honest with people about whether I'm a good fit for them or not. Um, so then once we get through that and we realize that we are a good fit for each other, we create a plan. A plan where it starts with them literally telling me everything, being as honest as possible. I create an environment where they know that anything they discuss with me is going to stay between the two of us, because trust is huge when it comes to any type of coaching. And so once we establish trust, we build a rapport with each other, then and they open up to me, then we can start addressing their situation. And a lot of times it's really about the person. We don't really address the other person much because they want to make it about the other person, but healing is really about them. And so a lot of people get shocked because we don't talk about the other person that much. I may hear what they did, some of the things they've done, but at the same time, the question is, given that we know that they've done these things, how are we going to react to those things? And that's what we focus on.
Man, that's beautiful. I know we have to cut it a little short with you because you got to get back to the coaching with the kids and everything.
Yeah, the game is starting.
So,
but go ahead.
You gave us so many beautiful gems today in the interview. Where can our viewers find your book at? Is it on Amazon or where do they have to go to a website? How can they get your books to get some more information about yourself?
So the hard copy versions of the books are on Amazon, but I'm one who you'll notice that I really do this because I care. And so if they go to my website, I actually offer the electronic books. You get to pay whatever you want to pay for it.
Wow.
Because I
saw that. I'm like, ooh, I'm getting all of them.
I don't do this to make, like, this is not really a money thing for me. I really got into this organically and not saying, because a lot of people are getting into this coaching game and all of this because they're trying to make a lot of money. And it's a false narrative that they're putting out there, and they are learning that I put out some good stuff on Instagram. People will pay me, and that frustrates me every day. And I do this because I organically started from people asking me to help. The only reason I even charge sometimes is because it takes away time from other things that I could be doing. And so that's the only reason I charge. If I had some type of grant that said I can do this for free, I would do it for free, all day. But yeah, and so my website is CoreyGuyton.com, Instagram at Dr. Corey Guyton. And so those are my two biggies.
Corey, could you do that again? For some reason, when you started saying that, we got a little bit of feedback. Could you say that again, please?
So the part about my
website,
website is CoreyGuyton.com, and my Instagram is at Dr. Corey Guyton.
Boom. Facebook?
Facebook, Corey Guyton, and then I think my page is Dr. Corey Guyton.
Boom, man, we appreciate you so much. When you coming out to the Bay Area?
Man, listen, I actually have some friends in the Bay Area that I'm trying to visit, and so I'm gonna have to make this one happen.
Yeah, you gotta
come through and let us know
that
you're coming through.
We're gonna bring you in the studio,
absolutely,
the actual studio out here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So is there any kernel of hope that you could give these women who are out there trying to just find a good mate?
Well, two things I'll say. One is that for anybody who's hurting, know that there were other people who are hurting, who are no longer hurting, and who are in healthy relationships. And so it's possible. That's a clear indication that it's possible. The second is that you have to value you over any other person or any other relationship or any other title. You have to value you. and you have to put yourself first, and you have to be selfish in situations that benefit you from a place of recognizing your value. Not selfish from the perspective of I am going to be condescending to you, but it's because I value myself. I'm going to be selfish, and I'm going to make decisions that benefit me, my heart, and my mind.
Man, that's beautiful.
I like that. I like that.
So, y'all, make sure that you're going out there and following Dr. Corey Guyton on social media. Please go check out his book and everything. Brother, we appreciate you taking time out of your day today. Especially
please come back through.
No problem.
Hey, we have to do an episode. We have to do a part 2 to this.
Yeah, we definitely
can do this again.
We need about 4.
Yeah, we just touched the surface.
You need to make regular appearances, actually.
Oh, we have the Corey Guyton series. But yeah, let us know whenever you're in town. Thank you, brother. Man, keep on working in your gift, because it's a beautiful thing that you're giving back to the community. And like you said, it's coming from, right here in the heart. And when you're working from a space like that, man, you're truly blessing others with, what they need in their life at this current moment.
Absolutely.
So, man,
I appreciate
hats off
you
to
all.
you, brother.
Thank y'all for allowing me
to come. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking with you.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
All right. Have a good one.
Wraps it up for Health Matters. I'm Dr. Felicia Bridges, host Cat Fitness.
Yo, make sure you're following us on Instagram at Health Matters Radio. You can find Felicia
at Facebook, Felicia Bridges 1 on Facebook, and Health Matters Radio on Instagram.
Guys, make sure you follow me, your man Cat Fitness, on Instagram at Cat Fitness 3. You can also follow me on Facebook at Cat Fitness. Guys, we love you for tuning in. Make sure that you're watching or listening every Sunday at 2 p.m. at 89.3 KPFB Berkeley, and we'll see you next week.
Next week.
Peace out.